I do like a new piece of running kit, whether it be a training shoe, apparel, or even running tech. So this is always a really exciting time of year for me because we start to hear rumours and the odd picture gets leaked of what's to come this year in the world of running. So in today's video, we are going to be taking an in-depth look at all the new and exciting road running shoes that are going to be hitting the shelves in 2022. Happy New Year, folks, and hope you had a great New Year's Eve wherever you celebrated it in the world. I'm Lloyd Purvis and this is Run4Adventure. This is our first video of the new year and I thought looking at all the new road shoes was a perfect topic to start with. There is some great heat coming out this year, but we're going to start off with all the exciting things going on at Saucony. This is a brand that I have really enjoyed over the years and I've spent a lot of time running in their shoes, and they really did have a big impact on the running scene over the last couple of years with their new Endorphin range. After quite a disappointing 2017 and 2018, they are definitely back at the top of the running world, and 2022 looks like it's going to be another strong year for the brand. Speaking of the Endorphin range, there's going to be big updates to the very popular Endorphin Speed 2. This has been a shoe that I really enjoyed running in, and I know a lot of you guys have as well, and it made our top 3 road running shoes of 2021. Obviously this time around it's going to be the Endorphin Speed 3, and I think it looks pretty awesome in this all blue and yellow colorway. There is going to be some different colorways available on launch. The biggest difference being to the shoe is it's now made from independent tooling. So this basically means that the shoe is going to run, look and feel very different to its carbon plated brother, the Endorphin Pro, whereas before the two shoes were built off a very similar platform. I think what Saucony are trying to achieve with the updates to the Speed is to produce a shoe that's going to be more aimed at the daily trainer market. The Endorphin Speed was a shoe for your quicker training sessions, so intervals, thresholds, tempos, things like that, but a lot of runners were using it just as their daily trainer. So in the new model we're going to get a beefed up upper construction, a bit more of a substantial heel cradle and a bit more substance around the midfoot, just to give you that nice lockdown in the shoe, but also a bit more durability. Obviously, by adding more substance, there is going to be a slight weight increase. It is only a few grams, so I've got my fingers crossed that we're not going to notice it. It's still going to have that nylon plate worked into that midsole, I'm happy to say, but it is a very different design on the plate this time round. So it's going to be winged at the midfoot, so it's going to wrap around your midfoot, and you can see it in this picture, the way Saucony have sort of constructed that midsole. They've left a gap in the compound so that it shows that new plate design off. This should offer the runner a lot more medial and lateral support and a bit more guidance and stability if you did want to use the Speed 3 as your daily trainer. It should make that midsole a lot more stable underfoot when you compare it to the current platform on the Endorphin Speed 2. I am glad to say that the speed roll technology is still present in the shoe, although Saucony have stripped that rubber outsole a bit just to try and save on weight. So there is a lot more exposed compound on the shoe now. This can sometimes cause durability issues and I'm never really a massive fan of this. Moving on to their range topping carbon plated super shoe, the Endorphin Pro. And there's some even bigger changes made here. Speaking of bigger, it looks like that midsole's been hit in the gym because it now comes with a 39mm stack height, like a lot of the super shoes out there, just keeping it below that max depth of 40mm allowed by World Athletics. It will still run off an 8mm offset, so the same as before, but it is going to weigh in at a very light 204 grams, even though we've had all that compound added to the midsole. To try and offset some of that weight, Saucony have really stripped back the upper using a very clever, lightweight, almost transparent material in the upper construction. So this should make the shoe super comfy, but also very breathable. Obviously, that midsole still houses a carbon fiber plate, but there is a much more aggressive curvature to that plate design this time round. We've still got Saucony's speed roll technology, so it is like the original Endorphin Pro, but on steroids, so should be faster, more efficient, and feel very different to running compared to its little brother, the Endorphin Speed 3. I think the design looks pretty awesome, and it's gonna be available in some bonkers colorways, which is always good to see. No prices have been released yet for the two shoes, but I dare say they are both gonna go up in price when you compare it to the £155 and the £190 price point of the current two models, and they should both be available sometime around July this year. Along with the big changes to the Endorphin range, we're also going to get some substantial changes to some of Saucony's mainstays, so the Ride, the Guide and the Triumph, and yep, you've guessed it, they're all going to have softer, deeper, more rockered midsole construction. And as we go through the video, you're going to see that this is a bit of a pattern forming across all the brands. Next up is a brand that you probably wouldn't expect us to be talking about when we're discussing new and exciting road running shoes for 2022, but Salomon are having a massive push this year when it comes to their road running shoe development, and they're going to be releasing 4 new running shoe models, including a flagship carbon plated go faster shoe, the Phantasm CF. It's going to be a lightweight, deeply cushioned, carbon plated race day shoe with a nice lightweight stripped back matrix upper construction. That stack height on the midsole is going to be somewhere around the IAAF limit of 40mm, and it's going to weigh in at a pretty light 225 grams in a Euro 42.5. Retail is going to be somewhere around €200, and it should be available somewhere around springtime this year. I've got to say, it looks great in this all red go faster colorway. Definitely a shoe we're going to be getting on our feet and trying out, because I do love an all red race day shoe. But it doesn't stop there for the Salomon brand. They're also going to be launching the Phantasm model in their lineup. This is another deeply cushioned, high stacked, rocker geometry road running shoe. No carbon fiber this time round. We're going to have a slightly more forgiving polyamide and fiberglass plate worked into the midsole. Both shoes are going to utilize that surge cushioning compound that can be found in the very popular Ultra Glide trail running shoe from Salomon, and they're also both going to have that reverse camber rockered technology. So when you think about it, a very similar setup to what Saucony have achieved with the Endorphin lineup that we've just spoken about. The shoe should be available sometime around spring this year, but they're also going to be launching the Glide Max, which is the first time the Salomon brand have ever produced an oversized cushioned road running shoe. Up next is a brand that I haven't spent any time in at all, well, except for when I wore their classics back in the 1980s and 1990s. Yep, it is Reebok, and this brand has to be one of the most recommended brands by viewers from last year, so definitely going to be getting a few pairs of their shoes this year to test and review at the channel. We are going carbon plate crazy in 2022, and Reebok are definitely well and truly jumping on that carbon plate bandwagon with the Floatride Energy X. I promise there will be some non-plated road running shoes coming up later in this video. So the Energy X is a deeply cushioned carbon plated race day shoe, but this shoe does have a few design differences when you compare it to all the others. I think the biggest difference is that the carbon plate only sits under the forefoot in the midsole, so that seems quite odd to me, and I'm not fully convinced how that's going to work when it comes to propulsion and energy return. It comes with a lightweight and very breathable flex weave upper construction. We've got a bit of a TPU heel cradle to give you a bit of extra structure in the back end of the shoe, and like most go faster super shoes these days, it's got a very aggressive rocker geometry to that midsole, but if you also look at the profile of the shoe, it is quite wide, especially when you look at the midsole on the heel. The Floatride Energy X has quite a unique outsole design, and it's very different looking from what we'd normally see on a shoe like this. Apparently it was designed with the help from Reebok's Boston Track Club athletes, and the performance of this shoe is kind of aimed at marathon racing and long distance training runs. This is currently the women's colorway that we're looking at, but we've also seen a men's colorway option. The shoe's going to retail for somewhere around $200, and it should be available somewhere around spring. We are also getting an update of one of my favorite road running shoes of 2021, New Balance's Fuelcell Rebel V2. And yes, I'm happy to say there is no carbon plate in sight. I told you we'd eventually get to some. I have got my fingers tightly crossed, however, because I was a massive fan of the V2s, like a lot of you in YouTube world. I'm glad to say that the same variation of fuel cell compound is going to be used in the new version, but the biggest changes are going to be that you now get a 1.5mm more depth of cushioning under your foot, and New Balance have also added a bit of width when it comes to the heel profile as well. The Rebel V2 was a massively successful model for the brand, but like I said in a few of my reviews, it's not the most stable neutral running shoe in the world. It looks like New Balance are trying to address this by adding a bit of width to make that platform a little bit more stable, to make the shoe maybe a bit more accessible to a wider range of runners, and this can only be a positive thing when it comes to the Fuelcell Rebel. As far as upper construction goes, we've still got a nice lightweight and breathable upper, but a slightly more premium fabric has been used this time round. We've still got that nice flare on that heel counter, and we've got some structural 3D printed overlays on the upper of the shoe. New Balance have added a little bit of blown rubber to the outsole just to improve traction, but also to help when it comes to durability. This is definitely a shoe I'm going to be trying out next year. Super excited. The shoe looks great, the updates look great, so I can't wait to get them on my feet. There's been no prices given out yet, and it should be available late in 2022. Also from the brand, and yes, we are going back to carbon plated midsoles, it is the SC Elite V3. This is the brand's top of the range carbon plated race shoe, and it is going through a big overhaul this year from the upper all the way through to the midsole, and it is using some very clever new technologies from New Balance. The new midsole is comprised of a new blend of fuel cell compound claimed to be the highest energy returning to date, but you've also got New Balance's new Energy Arc carbon plate and midsole tech in there as well. So you're going to have a void running down the center of that midsole, and you can see the exposed carbon plate through it. That plate has been completely redesigned to offer a higher level of rebound, and then you couple that with the midsole technology, and this is claimed to be the highest performing marathon day race shoe that New Balance have ever produced. It doesn't stop there with the new Go Faster shoe, because that upper has been completely re-engineered as well. So it's now going to be a booty or more sock-like construction, but you get a slightly different weave in the fabric around the midfoot. That's going to supply you with high levels of comfort, great lockdown, so that you feel really connected to that shoe when you're moving at speed. It's going to retail for around about the £200 mark, and it should be available autumn 2022. But also the brand New Balance, they're bringing out a daily training shoe that's going to have a 47mm stack height on the midsole. I think the running shoe world has gone a little bit bonkers at the moment, but you know, if you want to feel a bit taller when you're out there running, this could be the shoe for you. Next up on the must-have road running shoes of 2022 is another one of my personal favorites, and I think a really underrated training shoe. I don't really understand why it is underrated, because it definitely stands out when it comes to design and colorway, and it is Asics Noosa Tri 14. It looks like the shoe this time round has just had a bit of a subtle update, and most of the changes have been made when it comes to the upper, although I have heard that the midsole compound has been made slightly softer, which I personally think is a really good move. It looks like the biggest changes are going to come to the heel and the tongue design in the new Noosa upper. Like a lot of running shoes these days, it's going to have a slightly flared design on that heel, just to cut back on any rubbing or irritation on the Achilles tendon. I also think with the shoe being aimed at the triathlon market, it might make it a little bit easier to get into the shoe shoe in a hurry when you're racing through transition. The new tongue design looks like it's been made into one giant pull tab, which I think is a brilliant idea, and I've never seen it on a running shoe before. Again, it's really going to aid you when you're trying to get them shoes on quickly in transition. As far as the rest of the shoe goes, the materials, the fabrics, it looks very similar to the current version. Really glad to see that Asics are sticking with those bold, wacky, crazy colorways that they always do on the Noosa franchise. And I'm also hoping that it still comes with a nice pair of matching elastic laces, because that is a feature I love about this shoe. Next up is a brand that's always pushing the boundaries of innovation, and a brand we have a lot to thank for when it comes to running shoes getting super lightweight, but then still carrying deep levels of cushioning, and it is Hoka. So there's a couple of shoes that I'm really excited about when it comes to 2022. One is a completely new model to their lineup. The other one is a slight spin-off of an existing model. So first up is a brand new neutral daily trainer from Hoka, and it is the Kawana. It's going to retail for £125 here in the UK. Weight-wise, it's going to weigh in at 283 grams in a men's shoe, 237 grams in a women's. It's going to run off a 5mm offset, and obviously being a Hoka shoe, it's going to have a deeply cushioned rockered midsole. It is also completely vegan friendly, and it's going to have a lot of recycled fabrics used in the upper construction, which is always a great thing to hear. The midsole will use a new lively blend of CM EVA foam compound, but it will also have a quite unique swallowtail design on that heel geometry. You can see by that heel shape, it's taken a lot of design cues from the already current Clifton Edge, and that is to supply the runner with a slightly smoother transition from heel to toe. It looks to have a very plush and breathable mesh construction with some quite big perforations worked into the upper fabric. Should really help with airflow when we're out there putting in those training miles. It should be released early this year, so any time now, as long as there's no delays when it comes to manufacturing. Next up from the super soft running brand is the Mach Supersonic. Now we all know that the Mach 4 was a very successful running shoe model for the Hoka brand in 2021. So it looks like they're trying to make the most of that this year as well with the launch of the Supersonic. It's going to be a limited release, and it's going to utilize some really new exciting tech from the Hoka brand. The main one being a new ProFly Plus midsole. This is going to be the first shoe to feature such a midsole, and basically what it's doing is offering the runner a bit more energy return or bounce back, but also a big weight saving. So a men's shoe is going to weigh in at a crazy 235 grams, and a women's shoe is going to weigh in at sub 200 grams at only 195 grams. So this leaves us with a super lightweight, very responsive daily training shoe. There's also going to be some very subtle changes made to the upper. So Hoka have added a very handy heel tab, but it's also going to be using a breathable jackered mesh construction. The Supersonic isn't replacing the Mach 4. The Mach 4 will have a colour update this year, but it's just giving Hoka a chance to try out some of their new innovations, which I'm sure we'll see cross over into the new Mach 5 when it's released in the future. The Mach Supersonic is definitely a shoe I'm going to test out this year, because unfortunately I never got a chance to run in the Mach 4s, and all I heard was great things about that shoe. Great feedback from you guys on how it performed. So there you have it. There's some of the shoes that we're really excited about getting our hands on and giving a thorough testing this year. Obviously, I could go on and on in this video. It looks like it's going to be another crazy year when it comes to running shoe innovation. All the brands are bringing out new models, new shoes featuring great innovation and new technology. It'd be great to hear from you guys. What road running shoes are you really excited about this year? What shoes do you want to get hold of, get on your feet and take them out for a run? Let us know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed the video, don't forget, give that like button a smash and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It's a great way of keeping up with future content. It's a new year, so we thought we'd have a bit of a January sale when it comes to our merchandise store. So for the whole of January, we've got 10% off of all our funky multi-wraps, but we've also got a huge 20% off of Run4Adventure technical apparel. There's not many items left, very limited on sizes, so you have to be quick before they've all gone. But thanks for watching, guys. It's really appreciated. We will see you back here very soon. And as always, stay safe and keep on running. 2021, and it is New Balance's Rebel V2. The carbon plate. And New Balance have also added a bit of width when it comes to the heel running down the center of that midsole, and it explodes.